Destiny 2 Edge of Fate has a serious issue once you finish the initial storyline. And the issue is that the new power progression model is flawed. And flawed in some fundamental ways, I believe. The issue is not moment-to-moment gameplay. The core gameplay is absolutely fantastic with Destiny, and possibly better than ever. From a hunter's standpoint, because that's the only class I play, they've increased the interactions with abilities and aspects and fragments and perks in a number of ways that has really increased the variety of builds that I have access to. And it's left me with a toolkit that I can really mess around with, to the point where the new exotics, along with the new interactions between fragments and aspects, have really got me excited for the future of build crafting in Destiny. It makes me want to perfect builds. It wants me to really achieve the higher echelons of gear progression that this game has to offer. But the issue is not wanting the gear. The issue is actually progressing along this progression line that they have implemented to get the gear. When I finished the legendary campaign, I was set to about 150 light level, and the campaign itself was quite challenging. It really got me back into the flow of challenging combat in Destiny. I really enjoyed it. But after leaving the campaign, I was set on a path via the portal of very, very basic and simplified combat encounters, activities that left me so bored after such a stellar campaign that it really was tough to be enthused about playing the game and progressing through this line of progression that they have set out in front of me. In Destiny, you have a portal, and the portal is where all the main activities take place. You have Solo, Fireteam, Pinnacle, and Crucible. Solo is for your solo play. Fireteam and Pinnacle are for group activities to play with other players. And Crucible is your PvP. Now, I'm not a PvPer, so I don't play a lot of Crucible, but I do like playing in a Fireteam. I do like playing the exotic missions and things like this that are part of the Pinnacle playlist. And I do like playing on my own from time to time. The challenge of solo play is something I really do strive for in certain aspects, playing solo dungeons and things like this. And when you load up the portal screen and press solo, for an example, you are left with a few different options. There is solo op playlists that you jump into from normal, advanced, expert, and master, and you have to reach a specific light level to unlock these. So I had to progress a little bit further on to actually achieve the advanced and expert and master playlists. These are sort of predetermined sets of modifiers and things like that inside the game, because you can really now define what difficulty you want in Destiny 2, and I really, really think that is a great choice. But it comes with a few issues. So you also have a list of the operations themselves. These lists are where I spend quite a bit of my time, because I like to customize my experience. I like to challenge myself. So you go and you press whatever operation you want. It clearly displaying what loot you're going to receive, how much loot you're going to receive, as well as if there's any bonuses to the loot for that activity. It also determines what tier of loot you're going to get. Tier 5 being the best, and you need to have reached a certain light level to even start achieving that sort of tier. None of this I have an issue with, but the issue stems from being able to actually complete these activities based on your light level. Light level is not a good indication of how powerful a player is. I am around 200, just above 200 right now, and I can complete an activity at 270, something that's well beyond my light level. And the reason I can do this is because I am an average player with a reasonably good build, good perks, good guns, and good stats allocated in the correct locations. And with all these perks and aspects and stats, I am able to play at a relatively high level. But the light level is not an indicator of how strong your character is. Light level is an arbitrary number that is assigned to your progression throughout the game. And when you hit 4/5, you have reached max light level. So even though my character is relatively strong with these good weapons and a good build, my lack of light level reduces the amount of damage I am actually dishing out. The higher the activity is above my light level, the less damage I will be doing out, to the point where it will just make enemies invulnerable. And this is the crux of my issue with the progression right now. In a normal MMO or live service game, the progression has a look at your items and your gear. We're talking World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy here, where your gear will have a gear score, and that gear score is tied to the stats and perks and different bits and pieces inside your gear. Good gear, higher stats, higher gear score. And then that gear score is calculated, it's averaged out across all your equipment, and that determines how strong in a single number your character is. But that's not how Destiny does it. So when a traditional game says you need to be X, Y, and Z gear score or item level to compete in this activity, what it is generally saying is you are literally not strong enough to beat the damage checks, to dish out the damage and beat the enrage that this activity offers. But in Destiny, it's not like that. In Destiny, light level is not tied to the power of an actual weapon. I could have a god roll weapon. It could be the best perk combinations for this specific weapon. It could fit in with my build absolutely perfectly. I could have the stats I need and the armor values I need to survive if I play well and if I execute my build correctly. The light level physically stops me from entering that activity. At the moment, I can't do a solo ops playlist at master because I need to be 270, but I can pick a specific level and I can customize it to be 270. And I have gone through and I have beaten a 270 expert solo ops. It was challenging, it was hard, but I was able to execute it and I was able to do it. But the game gatekeeps me from being able to access the quick play version of it. Now, this in itself is not particularly an issue until you get to the Fireteam Finder, which we will get onto later. But what this does do is it limits the power of the loot you can get from the activities, because the power of the loot is tied to your light level, not necessarily how powerful you actually are. So there's a discrepancy there between your power of your character and the light level of your character. But the power of the loot that drops is tied to the light level, not necessarily your actual power. There is this artificial barrier in place, scaling up to the point where I can't do any damage, no matter what, of the light level cap. The light level needs to be a representation of how powerful my character actually is, and that light level should increase when I start to get higher tiered loot. So at this moment, I'm running extremely easy activities just to grind light level, and it's not enjoyable. There's no chase there for me. It is this process of running Fireteam ops and solo ops and pinnacle ops just to gain loot. Not because that loot is good or powerful, but just because that loot has higher light level. I instantly sync that gear into the gear I've already got, increasing its light level, but not increasing my power. My power right now is stagnant, and therefore my progression is stagnant. So I'm just playing the game with no sense of progression whatsoever. Yeah, a cool gun might drop with some cool perks and stuff like that, and that is a form of power progression, but the actual light level grind that this game is built around, that this progression system is built around, is not progressing me, which means I'm stuck in this aura of boredom. And this roadblock is not going to change until my light level reaches a specific point where I can then start getting tiered drops of 3 and 4. When I start to get tier 3 and 4 drops, I can see my enthusiasm for the grind being rejuvenated because it is actually contributing to the power of my character, my stats of my character. I can see myself grinding out perfect rolls of gear and incorporating the set bonuses of the gear into my build and really progressing myself forward. But this arbitrary light level number has caused a scenario where I am grinding for the sake of grinding. It isn't fun, it isn't enjoyable. I am stuck in a loop of playing activities that are really quite dull to get to the bit I want to get to. And that is the biggest problem with Destiny's new progression model. I am not playing easy activities to progress my power a little bit to then start increasing the difficulty of the activities I am doing. I am playing easy activities just because I need the light level to start doing the things I want to do, to start progressing my power grind. In other live service games, everything you do adds to your character, progresses your character in some form. But right now, that's not Destiny. This area I am in Destiny is just stagnancy. Now, because of this stagnancy issue in Destiny right now, a lot of my friends that came back for Edge of Fate have left. So now I am interacting with the Fireteam Finder, matchmaking, and systems like that are in the game so I can find groups to progress my light level. And this comes with some fundamental issues because of power being linked to light level. So as I said earlier, they have these quick play playlists, and I can't access some of them because of my light level. This then restricts the amount of rewards I can get. Now, this is all tied to matchmaking. You can matchmake any of these quick play playlists very easily. Click the button, go. But it's often not the most optimal route for getting through the light level grind. And as I've said earlier, it's boring, so you want to do it quickly. To do that, you pick a specific mission from the list of missions and you customize it to maximize your rewards to progress your light level further. But when you pick a mission and customize it, to find a group of people, you have to use their in-game Fireteam Finder. Now, generally, it works quite well. It's missing some fundamental information that fire teams are going to need when looking for a group to join, and it is also quite slow. It also has issues with the longevity of a system like this that other MMOs have run into, but we'll get onto that in a minute. So when picking a mission, I then can customize that mission to maximize my rewards. I can then press Fireteam Finder and it takes me directly to the Fireteam Finder page. I then create a group, I put in the title and the tags I want to add to my fire team, and I click create listing. I wait for players to join, they join, we go. But it's not quite that simple, because when the players have found my listing on the Fireteam Finder, I then have to remake my level, and this is backwards to me. Now, you could go to the Fireteam Finder, find a fire team, and then make the level. That works fine. But I think it would be better if you made a level and then went to Fireteam Finder, and then Fireteam Finder should display the modifiers that you have attached to the level you have made. That way, people who are going through the listings can see exactly what mission they're getting into and seeing what modifiers they are going up against, so they can pick and choose exactly what they want. But that information is just missing from the listings. So it is incredibly frustrating when going through the listings and trying to pick a group to join, because you don't know what you're joining apart from the tags and things like this players are attached, and they are not detailed enough to make a decision. Once you then put a listing up there, you have to wait for other players to join. Now, at the very beginning of the expansion, it was quite easy. People joined relatively fast and then you would go. But right now, I would say I'm a little bit behind the progression curve, because getting the umph to actually just play for light level is pretty boring. So recently, when I put listings up for Fireteam Finder, it's taken 5, 10, 15 minutes to actually get a fire team. And the listings that are in the Fireteam Finder for me to join are either too high or too low for me to participate in or get decent rewards from. So the whole system doesn't link together nicely because of lack of information or players moving further in the progression line than myself. And later on, this issue is only going to increase as the players that are playing the game, and they are up 350, 400, 450, are going to have activities listed that a player like me just can't join, or a new player can't join. Not that the Fireteam Finder tells you that without looking at a player's light level. You really have to generalize what's in the list and try and guess what difficulty level the activity is going to be that you jump into. So as I don't want to wait 5, 10, 15 minutes to actually find a group, I end up picking the quick play options, and it finds a group very quickly and we get on and play. But the rewards aren't as good as customizing your own mission. So therefore it's dragging out this grind I'm stuck in even longer than it has to be. And because the quick play is set to different light level options, what's going to happen in the future when 75% of the player base are playing the master playlist because that's their light level, and 25% of the player base is stuck between normal, advanced, and expert because they're trying to get up there? Are queues going to increase dramatically? We just don't know. I think the game's given you a great set of tools, but the implementation hasn't been thought through with a large player base that is progressing through this progression curve. And I think the game's going to have some pretty big issues. Now, the area of the new expansion has had its issues in my eyes after the main campaign, where traversal that used to be exciting and exploring a new place actually becomes very tedious. Finding the right point to get to the right thing, to enter the right hole, to activate the right switch for side quests and activities after the main campaign is definitely becoming more and more tedious. So Kepler is not this beacon of enjoyment that it was for me to begin with. It definitely starts to show its rough edges as you play through the game more. The other thing is, Destiny feels very dull right now, because everything has been accumulated into a list of activities, a list of areas, a list of missions, instead of this vibrant area that you used to play in. And I look back on the launch of the Final Shape, where players would all jump into the Pale Heart and they would run through the Pale Heart and they would level up the Pale Heart and they will reap the benefits of playing through these activities with lots of events and bits and pieces throughout the Pale Heart. It was no means the pinnacle of level design and event design and interactions that a video game has ever had. It was quite simple, but there was a level of engagement there because you were running around a zone with lots of other players and participating in events and coming across people and really engaging, and all that's been narrowed down to just a list. And I feel pretty upset with the evolution of Destiny's activities, where we were really going from Witch Queen to Final Shape. There seemed to be this focus on the area and events and using the area and the events to progress through the game. And instead, what they've done with Kepler is they've added a world tier system where you replay the campaign. Now, the world tier system would have been incredible in somewhere like the Pale Heart, where you jump into that specific world tier and there's 10, 15 other players there all playing along in your world tier, and you're all doing activities and gaining loot and power equal to the world tier, like a Diablo and that kind of game. And that would have worked really, really well. But what's happened instead is they've completely ditched the event-based model. So when you jump into a new world tier in Kepler to earn higher level rewards, it's very barren, it's very isolating. Instead of it being this area with players and more of an online live service feel to it, an MMO feel to it, it doesn't feel like that anymore. They've stripped out a lot of the things from Kepler from the Pale Heart in Final Shape that would have made World Tier a really good addition to the game. But instead what you've got is just this isolated, repetitive loop of playing missions over and over again to gain rewards. And it doesn't feel like Destiny. Since the dawn of Destiny, we've gone out on patrols in open areas and we've seen other players and we've interacted with other players through events and missions and things like this, and that's gone. It's been isolated down to a menu screen and matchmaking and Fireteam Finder, and it really felt like a missed opportunity when they could have taken the Pale Heart and built on this world tier system where you can jump into it and really progress your character and have this engaging experience with other players. And now it's just a list and it feels cold. The other thing is, on the world screen, which shows all the other planets and activities in the game, it used to be called the destination screen. Kepler's not on there. Kepler's only in the portal, and it feels clunky to navigate. The world screen that shows you all the locations in Destiny, Kepler should be on there. Why is it not on there? You have to use the portal. They're forcing the portal down your throat. The fact that events are on there is really nice. It's a nice, quick, easy, accessible place to go. That's really good. But again, it's missing raids and dungeons as well. One of the issues with raids and dungeons is finding the damn things, where you have to know the location they are, and the portal would have been this perfect place to sort of consolidate all of them into, but they're not there. You can go to Pinnacle and Fireteam and there's no raid option, there's no dungeon option. Something that's greatly missing from the experience. You still have to go to the World tab to find your raid and dungeon. It feels odd. The direction and what they have tried to do with Destiny is something I can get behind. I love this idea of slowly working up your power and progressing through harder and harder activities to gain more and more rewards. And they have tried to touch on that, but the light level system being this arbitrary number instead of being tied to your actual power progression really lets the system down. And it worries me. It worries me for the future of Destiny. It worries me where they're going. I feel like Destiny has a timer at this. They have fumbled many times with a game that could be fantastic, and this is just an addition to one of those fumbles. How many more fumbles does Destiny get before it doesn't exist anymore? I don't know, but they need to think and focus on the progression of the game for me to really enjoy my time with Destiny. I'm a player that loves progression, and if you stop giving me progression, then why am I playing this incredibly brilliant, very fun, well thought out gameplay loop and build scenario in its second-to-second gameplay? You can have the best game in the world, but eventually it will become stagnant unless you support it with a level of progression. Even single-player RPGs have leveling mechanics where your progression and power of your player is increasing. I'm not having a good time. And with hand on my heart, I cannot recommend it to anyone. We'll see what the raid's like, but even if the raid is absolutely incredible in the next video, I still don't know if I can recommend Destiny to new players, because there is this level of boredom and soullessness that's attached to it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, hit the like and subscribe button, and remember to check out my Discord, and I'll see you guys later.